Alright engineers, in this video I'm going to go over some of the common problems I'm seeing with the extruding in the background and putting images on your Christmas ornaments. So let's go ahead and get started. What you should have done, and if you haven't done this yet, you should have started your ornament with the actual background. So I would start with a sketch on the top plane, and if I wanted like a rectangular background, I could choose a center point rectangle, make that rectangle, and make sure that the dimensions are within the constraints. So remember, the maximum size you could have is 140 by 140. If I made it, 103 by 127, I know that that would be within the constraints. And then the other thing that I need for the background is the little top notch that would be on my ornament. So again, I could create another rectangle up here, add in that little top notch. And then I don't want this to be separate. I want this all to be together. So if you have different things in your background where you have some overlapping lines, you need to trim those out before you extrude. So the trimming tool allows you to cut these lines out. And now we have this background that we want. And so before we start to do anything else, we need to extrude the background. So we start by clicking on background, extrude, and we'll do that 3 millimeters. You can do it however thick you need. So that's the first thing that you need to do. And now if you're trying to put some images on it and you want to trace those images, now is when you can bring those images in, and when you bring them in, you need to bring them in a sketch that's on the actual background and not on the top plane. So I would create a new sketch. It would be on the top plane, and then I would need to insert my images. Now before I can insert the images, I need to actually import them. So I would go import, and then I'm going to do this little heart, open, and then we go insert image, and we choose our image, and then we can put that wherever we want on the background itself. Okay. Now the most important thing, before you start tracing, you need to make sure that the image is at least the size that you want. You can move it around, you can move it left, you can move it right, you can rotate it, but what you cannot do is make it any bigger or smaller once you've traced it, especially with the spline tool. So before you actually start to trace, you need to dimension the picture itself. So that's why I had you do this on the blueprint when you were drawing your actual sketches on paper. I mean, you needed to know what the dimensions are going to be, because if you start tracing it and then you realize after the fact and you want to make it bigger, you're going to have to retrace it. So if I want my heart to be about this size, maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger. On my paper I said it was going to be 40 millimeters in height. Then I would set that, confirm the sketch with the picture, create a new sketch that's on that same background, and then I would start my trace. Okay, so now that I have this, I can go in and use my spline tool and trace my heart. So I'll do that real quick. Alright, so I know that's not the prettiest, but I was going kind of quick. Obviously for your projects you would want to go a little bit slower, make sure that you get all your details. Remember, you do not want to stop a spline at all, so it should be one continuous motion. When you're finished, you can go back and edit the point. So if I press escape, I have a little mistake here, I can bring this back out. Makes it look a little bit better there. Bring this out a little bit. And now we're good. This one right here too. So remember, do not stop your spline until you are completely finished. Alright, so now that we have the image actually traced, we don't need the sketch that has the image itself on it. So we can go in and we can delete that. Oh no! It looks like my sketch went away. It didn't go away. It just looked like that when I created this new sketch, somehow it actually ended up being on the sketch plane of the image and not of the background. So it says I'm missing the sketch plane. And so all I need to do is just choose this right sketch plane, and voila, it comes right back up. Alright, now, if I needed to move this around, okay, so if I wanted to maybe move this heart a little bit down to the bottom, I can do that. If I wanted to rotate that, I can do that as well. So maybe I want to move it to the top right corner. If you want to do that, the first thing you need to do is highlight your entire image. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then you're going to use this transform tool. So at the top, you have to go to the drop down and you click on transform. And then it gives you this nice little panel where you can move it to the right, and you can move it up, move it a little more to the right, and we want to rotate it so we can put it in this corner. And there we go. So then you just click outside, and you can move it wherever you want. But what you cannot do with the transform is you cannot make it bigger or smaller. So all you can do is move it around or rotate it. So now that I have it positioned and it's on the face of my background extrude, now I can go in and actually extrude this. So if I confirm that sketch, click on that space I want to extrude, I can make this come out another 2 millimeters. And when I look on that on the ornament, it's in that top left corner. Now you would also need to do a hole in the top here so you can actually hang it up. But if you're going to be removing, you need to do a different extrude. So every different level of extrude, whether it's adding or removing, needs to have its own extrude on here. So I would need to create a new sketch on this background, put my circle up here, and then I actually extrude this part. But remember, if I want it to remove, instead of doing add, I change this to remove. That should go all the way through. And now I have that part of the ornament as well. So I hope this video helped you out. If you've been having issues, this should clear some of that up. As always, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask me. I'm there to help you.